When I ordered the Carbon 4, I gotta be honest, I was a little bit apprehensive. The price tag almost turned me off this paddle, especially in light of the fact that there's so many new all-foam paddles coming out in 2025, and it's kind of hard to know which one you should choose. And for the first week, I almost didn't like this. I almost sent it back. There was such a big adjustment period for me coming from the 11.624 Alpha Pro Power series that I actually thought I made a huge mistake by buying this, but I'm super glad that I stuck with it because now this is my favorite paddle ever. And it has progressed my game in ways that I've never had any other paddle do. But it did have an adjustment period. First week felt like a foreign object. Really did not like it. I couldn't get the feel off the face. My drives felt like completely foreign. It just was not suiting me. But then in the second week, something changed. And it was actually during like a 5-hour session of playing where this changed from being a foreign object in my hand to an extension of my arm. And everything just kind of clicked all at once. But before I get into more details about kind of my whole perspective on this paddle, I wanted to give you a little quick disclosure. I am an ambassador for Carbon, so if you do want to buy this paddle, I do get a little bit of a kickback. But that being said, I did have to pay pretty penny for this paddle, not full retail, but I did have a discounted price, but I did still pay for it. So I'm going to give you my honest opinions, what I like, what I don't like, what I think you should need to know if you're looking at buying it. But let's get into a little bit more of the details about this paddle on the ball machine. On the drives is probably where I noticed the biggest change with the Carbon 4 versus pretty much any other paddle that I've used, and I would largely attribute that to the all-foam construction. Unlike a lot of Gen 3 paddles that have little honeycombs, this has basically a full foam face, which hits very differently. This is a 14 mil paddle, but I would actually say in a lot of ways, it plays like a 16 mil paddle in terms of the forgiveness that you get. And one thing that took me probably the longest time to adjust to was how to swing on my drives, whether that be forehand or two-hand backhand. I found that the swing that I had created from the 11.624 Alpha Pro Power series didn't really work that well with this paddle. I had to get a lot more compact, a lot shorter, and I would attribute that to the bigger power on the paddle. But the biggest thing that I noticed right away was the amount of spin. I never really attributed spin to being a big part of my game before, but now it's actually become more critical to me to have spin than it is to have power. And this has allowed me to be a lot more aggressive, but smartly aggressive in certain games. And especially in my singles, I found that my drives on the run with this paddle are the best I've ever had. I could be running from left to right, cross court, and then getting a cross court drive and a shot that I would maybe hit 1 in 10 times with any other paddle. I'm hitting like 8 or 9 out of 10 times with this one. And you can see that I don't really have to swing very much. Everything's very compact. And my two-hand backhand with this paddle has become really good, if I'm being honest. I can kind of choose where I want. And the shape that I get on the ball because of that spin, it dives more so. So if you're trying to work on your drip shot, it's probably one of the best paddles to do it with. Likewise, my drops actually felt really incredible with this paddle. I can drop it essentially right where I want into the kitchen. I can get cross-court drops that I was never really able to get that consistently before. And again, having that added spin at your disposal really can't be underestimated in its value on a really good drop, because when it's diving, and upon landing, whether it's backspin or topspin, that ball is diving out and spinning forward, or it's kicking back with a lot of velocity, actually. And this allowed me, again, to adapt my game to a higher level play, if I'm being honest. Before, I was really kind of in that 4-2-5, 4-5 mentality where I can just hit everything pretty dang hard. Don't have to worry too much about a soft game, and I'll just power my way through. With the Carbon 4, I adapted to having a much more well-rounded game, I would say. I'm choosing my spots, whether it's a really good drive or a really well-placed drop, to allow myself to work up through that mid-court zone, which again is a great spot off the resets. It took a while on the ball machine to get used to the resets with this, but now I can really get behind that ball and keep the trajectory nice and low to allow myself to approach into the net. And the biggest thing that I noticed off of this paddle versus the 11.624 is that because you have that more linear feel off the face, more direct, right? It's dwelling and then going. It allows you to pick that spot a lot better. And the added dwell in this paddle versus a lot of others that are on the market, even the other Carbon True Foam paddles that I've tried, the Carbon 2 especially, I found this just sits in the face a little bit longer. And that allows you to get a little bit more shape. And this has an interesting side effect where I actually think that I'm hitting softer with less power, but my mixed doubles partner, when I asked her about how it felt playing against me with this one, she said it feels like there's more volume to the ball. There's more weight to it coming at her. And that was very interesting because I actually thought, oh crap, I've lost my power game. But in actuality, I had an easier time deploying my power game with less huge swings. My net game, because this paddle is so light, even with the weights that I've put onto it, I'm able to get some really hard volley shots, even on my single hand backhand. And the ball just comes down, right? There's nothing here that I'm swinging huge to generate that power. But again, if I want to spin it and slow that ball down, I can do so very, very easily. Hand speed and hands battles has really shined quite bright for me. Main reason why, that lower swing weight allows me to transfer from side to side very easily. Dinking, likewise, has been super, super great with this paddle. My angle of attack on my dinks is a lot lower. It's a lot more at a higher level of play than I was before. I always found with the 11.624, I was more likely to pop up the ball in a dinking sequence. This paddle, I feel like I can keep that angle down a lot more, which is great. But then I can also add a lot more spin onto that ball, which is winning me points because my opponents think, oh yeah, I can get this ball. And then once it hits and spins out, it kind of dives at their feet, which is a really, really great attribute to have when you're in those higher level dinking battles. This is a paddle that I would say will allow you to progress your game if you're willing to adapt to its play style. This is not a paddle that you can kind of make it adapt to your game. I would say that you need to adapt to the paddle's game, which the game that this paddle has is the top tier level. There's no doubt about it, right? Having that ability pretty much anywhere on the court to have control, to have power, to have spin cannot be underestimated. So overall, is the Carbon 4 worth it for all that extra money? And after reviewing it for several weeks, I can safely say, yes, it is worth it. This paddle is just that next tier up in power and control and spin and just general feel. It does make a difference when you spend that extra money compared to the 11.624 Alpha Pro Power Series or anything in that kind of price bracket. Who is this paddle for? I would say that this is definitely a paddle that's designed for more experienced players. The 4 or 5 plus will really see the advantage of this in those hands battles against your opponents, in the resets, in your drives. Everything's going to just feel that little bit more solid, a little bit more compact, a little bit more finishing power, all the attributes that you want at that higher level. Could you get this paddle if you were a beginner player and you wanted something that will last you a while? Yes, will it have some adjustment? For sure, but the lighter swing weight, the general forgiveness, the power deployment, it can play into your hand once you get used to it as a lower level player, but I would definitely say this is oriented more for the higher tier player. So if you want to go and pick one of these up, you can go to Carbon's website. You can use my code RY3D. This will give you 10% off your purchase, which on the price point of this paddle is much needed. If you have any questions about the paddle, about Carbon, about how it plays compared to the 11.624 or any other foam paddles that are on the market right now that you would like to see, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So I have a little piece of exciting news to share with you guys. I have a new partnership with the Ontario Pickleball Academy, and I'm actually going to be moving all my pickleball paddle reviews and pickleball product reviews over to their channel. So if you want to go and subscribe to them, I'll leave the link in the description. But yeah, going to be pushing out a bunch more content through their channel because they have all the paddles that I need, especially if you're in Canada. They're going to be your go-to guys. I will have a discount code for them. So thank you for all the support on the Rye 3D channel. This is going to kind of shift more towards 3D printing centric content going forward. But yeah, hope to see you guys over on the OPA channel. See you there.